Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hidden Existence. I hope everybody is doing all right out there tonight. We've got a very interesting show tonight. The guest is coming from the UK. Who'd have thought that having just an interest in Bigfoot and doing a little research would have ended up in 7 months of harassment from what appears to be Bigfoot. We're going to get into it. Welcome, Rob.
Hello, how you doing? Everybody okay?
Doing all right. Thanks for coming on tonight. I know you've got an incredible, not just an encounter, you've got an incredible amount of detail, all in that happened within 7 months. And we're going to start from the beginning because I've listened to your account and I know there's so much. You've got detail on this, on these experiences that you've had. So I hope people can follow along tonight. We're going to just take it from the beginning. And if anyone's got any questions, put them up and we can ask them along the way, I guess. And so let's start at the beginning. You were in Matlock, beautiful part of England. And
yeah, that's right.
What got you into Bigfoot? How did this all start?
Right, okay. So just a little bit of background about myself. Just I'm a normal everyday guy. I work as a builder for a local housing association. And to answer your question, Daniela, so I did have a curiosity about Bigfoot. Never thought Bigfoot was in the UK for 1 minute. Came across all these people doing the sums, and it was impossible for them to be here, etc. It was actually following a channel that I came across a video, which was an 8-foot monkey-faced, hair-covered man spotted on Robin Hood Lane, Stanwell, which is actually about 4 miles away from Matlock. And that sparked my interest and started my mind thinking, could these Bigfoot be in this area? I'd seen odd structures and stuff in the woods before, but I'd never put two and two together. Why would I have, But it was this video what I'd seen what made me just randomly leave a random recorder down at Stanwell where this sighting had happened.
And so you left the recorder. Had you pick something up?
Yeah, so I left the recorder. It was actually a fog-filled winter's night when I left my first recorder on top of the hedge. And I went back for it the next morning, and on listening back to the audio, about 20 minutes or so after I'd left, you could hear the recorder getting approached. You could hear it getting handled. You could hear all footsteps, tree knocks, odd owl calls. And then what really sparked my interest, and my father's interest as well, because he listened to it with me, was there was all this odd yelling, and just it sounded very much like yobbo yelling, but with like monkey noises in amongst it, like and it, like really loud yobbo shouting. But never did this yobbo shouting say human words. It was just or weird noises like that. And at the same time, the recorder was being handled, and you could hear a character like chuntering like near the recorder at times. And so when I picked this back up the next morning, and I think I went to work, but then I listened to it, and I was like, "What on earth is going off here?" Rather than it being a quiet night's audio sat on a hedge. Also, the other interesting thing is I left the recorder in a pouch and stupidly left it with the open top where the recorder should have been wet, but it wasn't, and it had been moved when I collected it back. It was actually laid horizontal on the hedge, about a metre away, that was all. And all through the night, this recorder is picking up most fascinating audio. And so I did that process actually about 4 or 5 times. And each time it came back with a lot of oddities, should we say. And I actually sort of became fond of these characters. I used to leave food out, didn't get to only one time. I left some grapes. And I called them Big Man, Monkey Boy, and Gobby, just as like names in my head more than anything. I had my first sighting actually when I was leaving the recorder on the Cromford Canal. So I'd left the recorder behind a post. I had an electric bike, so just so people can get a grip on this, I had a really good electric mountain bike, which made me very mobile in the woods and up the hills wherever I wanted to go. And I left the recorder on Cromford Canal, and I walked past the placement when I put it there behind the fence post between the canal and the railway line. And I thought I best count what post I'd put it behind. So I walked back on myself, and I forgot to count the posts. So I turned around again, and this is the thing what through the Bigfoot what I seen, because I was doing this forward and backward motion, confused myself, never mind him or it. But then I've got my torch out, turned my backlight off, I shone it to the right in the garden centre, shone it onto the railway line, and I seen the body mass of a Bigfoot just going back behind a tree. And I had my light in it, then it come back out a bit and then went back in. And I had it pinned in my torchlight, and I was like, "Oh, this is this is a hair covered being I'm seeing here." It was actually like a fudge coloured, like sheepskin rug body mass. Went back in, come back out. So I knew I had some grapes in my bag, so I got them, dropped them on the floor, said food, food, and calmly pushed my bike away. That was actually quite a calming and relaxing sighting. And all the time I thought I'd been building a bit of a rapport with these beings, but unbeknown to me, I'd been actually angering them by.
Let's slow down a little bit. How have you built it? How had you been building this rapport with them, do you think?
Well, mainly I was leaving food, although that wasn't getting. So I was thinking foolishly, if you like. So I was leaving food; it wasn't getting took, but mainly just by the fact that I suppose it was more a case of I'd become fond of them, by listening back to them, listening back to this like young monkey character, a gobby one, a big man, and then I'd be fascinated to be doing all fake owl calls and stuff like that. So I suppose it was more a rapport one-sided, obviously, for them to not like me.
Yeah. Okay, so you've been, and you're doing this because you're wanting to research. You've been following a channel. You think?
Yeah. So I mentioned that channel. It's a popular British channel run by a lady, common channel, which I have been on to since, just saying, you shouldn't be encouraging people to research these beings because they can be very dangerous, as I've learned. But also, she treated me really bad, actually, when all this went back. She called me a hoax and stuff like that and didn't offer no support, and actually turned out to be quite a horrible character in my view. Anyway, so
let's go back to before all this. So you're starting to obviously think you're building up some sort of rapport with these things, but that's not what's happening. No. You're annoying them.
Yeah, and I had a bluff charge, actually. It was, I had a £4,000 electric mountain bike. I used to enjoy riding it. So I'd go to work in the day and I'd jump on that quite late at night when the cars were off the road and stuff. And it was one night, a windy night, when I was riding over Starcombs, and I heard something come running, making its way through the trees towards me. And I was like, what's this? It never actually come running out of the trees. But looking back, that was a bluff charge, what I ignored, just a warning charge. And it wasn't long after when I was sat at home, and I was sat in my front room, and I was just about to go to bed, actually. It was about midnight nearly. And I heard all this fake owl noise coming down the railway line by me, and like this squeaky younger character, like a squeaking. And I was like, I know what that is. That's not an owl. That's these beings. Because, of course, I've listened to all this 30 hours of audio, what I'd got. Numerous times I'd listened to it. And my father hadn't said it was very odd, and my stepmom, and not many others. But so I then I bought a game camera. This is where I crossed the line, in my opinion. I'd also been going in all their woods, taking photographs of structures and stuff like that. And I tried a sly game camera on the railway line. They went up, and basically I jumped on my mountain bike and went out looking for them. I thought, I want a video of these beings. And I didn't hear nothing, and I was cycling back, and then I heard the fake owl again near Whitworth Park. So I went down Whitworth Park with my light off on my bike, and I heard all the geese come running on the park, being chased by one of these beings, because I heard the fake owl call just before. And I was sort of on Whitworth Park trying to film in front of me. Then I sort of come to my senses, feeling a bit uneasy and everything. So I cycled home. Then I had another stupid idea, a few stupid ideas at that point, but of trying to get a game cam and catch them coming back down the railway line. So I covered up the infrared sensors with tape and strapped it onto the railway line. And I went back in and didn't think a lot more of it. set my alarm and went and actually collected it back about 3, 4 in the morning. And I listened back to it, and I could hear them tapping on the back of the camera and stuff. In other words, they'd been aware of me doing that and caught me red-handed. And I'd done that about 300 yards from where I lived. And so all it had to do is follow me with its eyes, just going back into my apartment. And then the harassment started 2 nights after that.
And this is at home. This now started.
Yeah, so it was, it was actually 2 nights after that camera night. I knew I'd got caught, and I knew I'd got caught that much and that clearly from the tapping on the camera and listening to the noises. Of course, it didn't capture the Bigfoot on video or anything. That I actually had a dud camera because they sent me one of these cameras. It didn't work right, so I smashed it up with a hammer and put it in the same place to signify to the Bigfoot, look, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I won't do that again. That's actually what I did. That was my logic, but that made no difference because 2 nights later, I was sat at home and I heard all this fake owl calling and stuff, and like big man noises like that, really low frequency, like sounds like an aeroplane engine to me. You know what I mean? Like a small aeroplane engine or a helicopter going over. And basically, these beings came to my home and started harassing me. There was a very odd hum in the atmosphere outside, and they was hitting the bars of the balcony, hitting the gates, and basically just harassing me outside. All owl noises on the cliff face outside, and there was this odd hum. And on that very night, interestingly, a strange interference appeared in my electronics. So my Sky TV, my YouTube, what was the main thing I was watching, had like an odd evil interference in it. I didn't think much of it at the time. I started doing a recording. So one more thing is this happened during the lockdown. So there was no people about, when it was during the first coronavirus lockdown.
Yeah, it was very strict, wasn't it? You were allowed out anywhere.
No one was allowed out of the home. This was exactly when it started, the worst possible time for me. And so they started coming harassing me at my home. And I got this evil interference in all my electronics. And I was even joking to myself, saying, I'm not having this. I'm not being intimidated. I'm going to put my coat on and go down. You know what I mean? That's how I wasn't taking it seriously. I didn't know what I'd been messing with and what I'd actually triggered upon myself. And it turned out to be a force, which was so horrible and evil to me. But we will get into that, of course. But so basically, they harassed me for 2 nights, and I felt so strange after it that I was like scared. I was scared Bigfoot was going to come in, smash my balcony window, and kill me and run off. I was having that anxiety from it, and I'm not that type of guy. I was getting affected by something. You know what I mean? So Bigfoot voodoo, I called it. And it was after 2 nights of this that I was like in a right, and I thought, this is something's affecting me here, and that's what I called it, Bigfoot voodoo. And I actually had to go on the internet to research Bigfoot weapon, Bigfoot, Bigfoot harassment, Bigfoot, and I did all this research and come across Scott Carpenter's site. So I did communicate with him and get help off him. So thanks for that, Scott. But also, I came across this thing called Bigfoot infrasound. And I was like, infrasound? What on earth is infrasound? I've never even heard of it. Well, I suppose I'd heard of infrasound and ultrasound. But so I came across this claim that they could do this infrasound. And I was like, what on earth is this? And so I watched some video on it. Turns out there was not even that much sort of out there on infrasound. But it was claimed that Bigfoot could do infrasound. People was having these experiences. And the side effects of infrasound was fear, anxiety, mind clog, like your head all clogged up, panic attacks, feelings of impending doom, all the things I was feeling. That was a Bigfoot voodoo. And so they started infrasounding my home, and that just carried on and on. I just mentioned one little bit what I did skip. So that time when I left the camera on the railway line, the next night, I was actually laid on my settee, just nodding off, actually. And I can remember seeing near the railway line opposite my home, which I could see 2 sets of red eyes looking back at me. And there was figures that was like swaying just left to right like that. And I was like, went to my window, and it was very hard to see whether I could see them or not. But on reflection, there was 2 beings with red eyes looking back at me. And they was make it so this was just the night before the harassment started. In my opinion, they was making the decision there and then. That's him. He's got to go. He's got to go. I was that much of a pain and intrusion to them. And with them having a young one and stuff, I was photographing their structures. I was ignoring the warnings. I was being brave and, you know, not respecting them, not fearing them, if you like. And so that's one thing that stuck out in my mind. And then made the decision that I had to go, and started harassing me night after night after night. And it turned out that even in the daytime, I was getting this strange interference in my electronics. And so, just to clue your listeners up on infrasound, and I'm not trying to preach you about infrasound, I don't fully understand it myself. Not many people do, because it's frequencies below the human hearing range. It's a really low frequency, but you can kind of sense it in the atmosphere and hear it at times. At times I could hear odd hums in the atmosphere. And so, of course, I wasn't protecting myself from it because I didn't know how to, anything like that. In fact, it's very hard to. But started noticing all these odd hums. And the main thing that gave it away for me was that I was getting all this odd interference in my electronics, which I'd never had before. I used to be a big stereo man, hi-fi, you know, got a Skybox connected to my own cinema amp, then through expensive speaker cable to my speakers. And all my audio had this odd interference in. Even DVDs, if I played a DVD, that would have odd interference in the audio tracks. And that was an indication of when I was getting infrasounded, which had a terrible effect on me, this infrasound. After 2 nights of them infrasounding me, like I said, I felt terrible, you know.
I mean, you were putting things over your window. I mean, people don't realise you were practically trying to.
Yeah, I'll take you down a path with what levels I went to in a minute. But so what happened is I started learning about this infrasound, and like I said, there's not that much study and information out there about it. I contacted Scott Carpenter, begging him, saying, "Please, Scott, you know, these Bigfoot started attacking me at my home. I don't understand what's going off. I beg you, please, you know, they're doing this funny thing to me, infrasound, or, you know, is there anything you can do to help me?" And even Scott Carpenter, the renowned Scott Carpenter, didn't fully understand infrasound, couldn't offer me a way to protect myself, because you kind of can't. You can to a degree. I'll get into that in a minute. But so it was actually about 4 weeks of this where I was basically unprotected. But I learned that my front room was the worst place for me to be, because that was nearer where they could attack me more. And at the balcony, the one below was empty as well. And so I was getting affected mostly in my front room. I learned that was a place that I didn't used to go. Then my bedrooms, I was still getting affected. I started sleeping in my hallway. And that was my first layer of protection, where I was sleeping in my hallway, just on a bed. You know, I'm a working man. I've always, you know what I mean? I'm not like that type of person. But it was that I'd figured out that my rooms was getting affected, and therefore my hallway was the one that had a room insulating me from the sound. But I was still getting affected even there. So to talk you through some infrasound protection, what I did, I eventually sort of latched on to its sound, Rob. You know, you can protect against this. And so I got a roll of loft insulation, which I put in my bedroom window, and just had fully loft insulation that I blind up before that, obviously. Then air bed up against that, big TV boxes, blankets, all this sort of stuff. And I started wearing earplugs in my ears. But it turns out that infrasound can actually penetrate you through the bones in your head. So you can't defend against it fully, and nor could I. Regardless of what I tried, it's such a horrible, evil, underhand weapon, because you cannot defend against it. I used to put ear plugs inside my ears, 39 decibel ones. I learned all about decibels and stuff. I'd put them in, and then I'd put ear muffs on top. And this is going to sound stupid, and your listeners are going to think, oh, but I actually strapped bags to them and put insulation in the bags as well. That's how intense it was actually attacking my head with infrasound. And it's not just your head; it's all your body. It's such a horrible underhand weapon. And from the moment that they turned on me, these beings, there was 3 words that stuck out in my mind that I can still remember now, and that's evil, powerful, and merciless, void of mercy. Once they turned on me, didn't matter what I said. I was like, oh please, you know, I was gifting food and stuff, and saying, please, just stop. I give, you know, I'm sorry. I never meant. I didn't know I angering you. Didn't matter. Nothing made a difference. And they turned on me, and they kept on and on at me. They had made a decision that I was getting moved out of that home I lived in for 8 years. I lived there, and they got the way. I couldn't stand it that much longer. I got harassed for 3 months there in Matlock, and I managed to move from there. I lived there for 8 years, never would have moved from there. I would have stayed there. That's one of the questions in my lie detector test, isn't it? About the fact that I said it in a lie detector test was the only reason I left my home in Matlock, due to the harassment from these cryptids.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a look at that. Like you said, you actually moved because you couldn't take what was going on. You moved from.
I couldn't stop it. There was, you know, I was trying gifting them and stuff like that. But then, so it also got me very angry, the fact that these beings were attacking me with such an underhand weapon. It was a weapon I couldn't see. You could tell it was happening to you, and you could hear it at times in the atmosphere, affecting all my electronics. But inferior infrasound, you cannot hear certain frequencies, and you cannot defend against such an underhand weapon. I used to call it a scumbag weapon, because, you know, it's not like a fisticuffs. Not that I would want that, but you know what I mean. It went a dignified way of attacking me. It was one I couldn't defend against. You know what I mean? I couldn't do it. There was nothing I could do. Horrible. The only time that it would stop would be when I'd go out of my place. You know what I mean? If I went a ride on my bike, that gave me a breather. Went to drive in my car, that gave me a breather. If I went to visit family, that'd give me a breather. But of course, a person, I was on lockdown though as well. But of course, a person wants to be at home, don't they? Do you know what I mean? And I was also not working due to, I wasn't furloughed, but I was just on emergency jobs only. And it started where they was actually doing it to me night and day. And of course, this made little sense to me, because we all know Bigfoot to be a night being, and of course, it defies logic. And so I was struggling, like, well, how is it that they're happening to me on the day? And it turns out that where I lived, we had a cliff face directly behind it, and all thick shrubbery and trees. And I worked out that there was on there. I'd hear them on there, hear them doing the calls on there, these fake owl calls. Used to do this fake owl call very often, like, just similar to that, but a bit more amplified. And so they do that, and I'd get looking on this cliff trying to figure out where there was infrasound from. Turns out I've got loads of good torches and stuff like that, which I've got from when I used to go down mines. And I'd hear all sticks dropping off, sticks breaking and stuff. But only once did I see a head retreating off there. But I figured out they had 2 perches on this cliff where they used to launch this infrasound from.
This is when you was down in Matlock.
This is Matlock, yeah. We've only mentioned Matlock so far, yeah.
Well, this is interesting, because I mentioned that when we first spoke that I used to be a wagon driver, and I've only been to Matlock once, and it is a beautiful place to go to, and it's in the middle of nowhere, and it was a paint factory. I was picking up paint, and I remember seeing there was a cable car going up to this mountain where there's a crystal shop on the top of there. So there's a lot of energy in Matlock, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, where you mentioned the old paint works, which is in Matlock Bath actually, and that's basically the sort of area where they're kicking it, because all that area at the back, they're in a lot of areas in that region, but all the area where you mentioned the back of the paint place, which is derelict now, of course, and non-accessible, there's all inaccessible cliff face and hillside, which no person can go on there. Just, I mean, it's like vertical cliffs and stuff. And interestingly enough, in Derbyshire, there's actually 3,300 old lead mines. So that's an interesting fact. And there's actually a cave complex, which is where in Matlock Bath, not far from the paint place, which you mentioned, which used to be habited, is that the word? Or what used to be lived in by troglodytes, they called.
I think it's that. Yeah,
which was a gang of biker people which lived in these caves, which links up to all the mines apparently. Some of the mines, sorry, in that area, and that's certainly one of the areas where these beings go. I know that from there's a lot of in my head. But when I used to sit on this bench and wait for them to try and catch them on camera, and one time I heard them coming towards me, and there's like an old railway line down there, and yeah. So basically, I've got evidence in my mind that they did used to go down there as well. So
yeah, okay. Let me just check in the chat. Has there been a malfunction? Has someone blocked someone by accident? Let me know, and I'll sort it out. I think there's been someone's butterfingers. One of the moderators. It's fine. Just let me know what's happened. All right. So, should we have a look at your? I don't know if anyone's interested in seeing this. I think it's interesting. Lie detector having a lie detector test. I checked this company out. I mean, it is legit. It's just a shame that you had nowhere to go with this, because I know you tried. I don't want to keep harping back to the UK group, but that was really your only kind of support network. And
rather than get any support, I got accusation. I got called a liar. I got called a hoax. I got ridiculed, and just a horrible experience. You
got accused of paying for this lie detector.
Oh yeah, that's one other thing. Yeah, so that kind lady said, "Oh, the reason you passed, Mr. Topless, is because you paid the lie detector man," which of course we know lie detector tests don't work like that. And of course, just to let people know, so I'm just an everyday builder. I don't even work in an office or anything. This is a test that I chose to take because, of course, I knew what I'd been through to be very real. My sister did, my father did, my brother kind of figured it. They used to attack me mainly when I was on my own. I had a friend in Canada what used to help me, but other than that, not really a lot more support. And I wanted to prove that what I'd been through was real, of course, and improve my own integrity more than prove what I'd been through. You know, I wasn't someone that was crazy. I wasn't someone that talked crap. I've never been a liar all my life, and I didn't want certainly my closest family and friends to think, "Oh, Rob started losing plot there a bit, coming up with right wild things." No, I never did lose a plot. I nearly did, but due to the pressure. But you know,
I know you've spent a lot of money in like equipment and like this. You said it was quite a lot of money to get this done. But when you do lie detector test, you can ask for your own questions, can't you? What you want to be asked.
That's right.
They're asking you what you want to be questioned about. So your questions were that you stated that you'd saw a cryptid, that you saw some structures that you assumed were built by cryptids. You stated that the structures were made from branches and bent over trees. You stated that you took a waterproof phone and managed to record some sounds on it over the period of a few months. Also that you've seen cryptid on several occasions, and that you've moved away from your previous residence as the cryptids had harassed you by emitting low frequency sounds outside his residence. So this is all the things that you believed were happening to you.
Yeah, and so I sort of just, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but just to point out that this is something I had to communicate across to a lie detector man from Belgium, I think, who had got no experience of cryptids. So I didn't, with what you've just read out there, I didn't go too heavy into what had been happening to me, because that already it'll have been like, what on earth am I, you know, what am I doing here with this sort of description? So yeah, that is a vague description of what I was, you know, what happened and stuff. But the sort of meaty bit, in my view, is the questions, which I did. Of course, this cost me £400, so I wanted to have as much impact and value for my money, if you like, from this test as what I could have. Yeah, of course, I had to pass it. You know what I mean? So I couldn't write anything what wasn't true, because you know what I mean, that would have detected it on me straight away. I'm just a normal everyday builder. So carry on, sorry.
Yeah, well, they did a pre-test with you and determined that you were, you know, suitable for it and everything. And so the questions they asked you were, did you see what you know for sure to be a cryptid? You said yes.
A BIGFOOT, that one, weren't it? I think.
Yeah, it says cryptid.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Was the sole reason for leaving Matlock because you were being harassed by cryptids? He said yes.
Yeah.
Did you lie to anyone about your Bigfoot experience? No. And did you lie when you said that you saw cryptids on more than 4 occasions and you said no? The examiner answered all the questions indicated above. Conclusion is that, in their opinion, you were being honest when you answered all the relevant questions of the test, and you will be excluded from further investigations, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I know these are not submittable in a court, but they give you an indication of how people are being. And I know people can fake lie detector tests, but you really have to train yourself to be able to do that. And I don't think Rob was really in a state of mind at that time when you did that, because this was really
this was after this was actually after it all finished and concluded, to be fair. But of course, this cost me £400, and this basically went to my father, my sister, to the channel what we've been on about, which didn't do no good anyway, and then to my workmates, my brother, and probably about another 4 or 5 people. That was it, and it cost me £400. And you know, of course, I wouldn't have done it to show myself up. You know, like I can't fake one of these things. So, and just to mention that, you know, I've said that it said Bigfoot. The reason that the first one said cryptid is because he actually wrote it down as cryptid, where the actual question was Bigfoot. And I actually phoned up the lie detector test.co.uk, and I said that, you know, he's put the wrong word in there, and they sent it me out again with the word Bigfoot. So that's
right, okay. Yeah, but all in all, I think the main thing is that you whatever you've experienced, you really experienced it. And I know you were a little bit reluctant because you weren't going to come on camera tonight, but you wanted to do it because you want people to be aware that going out, maybe researching this thing isn't what you think it's going to be. And you certainly have not had a good time with it. And this is, I mean, we've only just cracking into the beginning of this story. I mean, there's so much more to go yet.
So so just to appeal to people, that is my main aim, just to warn people that these beings are so much more powerful than us and can turn on you if not handled correctly. At the end of the day, we don't understand them, do we? So, you know, I really advise people not to go out playing with these beings personally. Definitely, in fact, So, so just to mention about the lie detector test, one more little bit, just before I just want to mention about that one more little bit, and that is the one question on there was that, have you ever knowingly told a single lie about your Bigfoot experience? No, I haven't, and I'm not about to start now. And that was when it was all over. So that covered 7 months of harassment, plus all this pleasant time when I've been audio recordings and stuff, which probably went on for about 3 months. So that meant I'd not told one lie in a period of 10 months to my workmate, to my father, to my brother, to my sisters, to anybody, to the channel what we're on about. You know, I'd not lied one bit to them, nobody. And so I do think that that's an indication of my integrity. And I'm certainly not, you know, I'm not a liar. So I understand that your viewers will be at different points with Bigfoot cryptids, if you like. That's what I like to refer to them as, because they have got some funky tricks up the sleeve, but we'll get to that. So just to appeal to your listeners that, of course, not all of you will think of Bigfoot can be anything other than a physical hair-covered being. I once thought like that, so I'm certainly not ridiculing your thinking. That's logical thinking. Other viewers of yours will be at a different place where they might have had an interaction what seemed very odd, or being disappeared, or it didn't make sense, some encounter they'd had, or they've come across no end of people talking about these sort of supernatural aspects to them, or oddities, should we call it for now? You know, a being just running some trees and then not being anywhere after, or, you know, seeing something moving but couldn't, I mean, hearing something moving but not being able to see anything, these sorts of things. So just to say to your viewers that I do understand that we're all at different points, and of course I, not so long back, was at that point where I never would have thought outside of the box with these beings. Not logical too, is it? A hair-covered being is a hair-covered being. You know what I mean? That's a logical thought, isn't it? Yeah. But what me and Danielle are going to start discussing is the fact that I got to see a lot more than this physical side of them. So the point we've got to now was when they was harassing me from Matlock and drove me out of my home. And that lasted for 3 months. And it was nearly every night. There was the odd night that I got a bit of a breather, but not very often. And it drove me to my wits' end. I'd had enough. I used to be lying in my hallway floor, scared as anything, and they'd been harassing outside, making all noises. You know what I mean? Just driving me out of my mind and making me scared that they were going to come in and kill me any minute. And I was having anxiety attacks, like, you know, real proper anxiety attacks. All this was an effect of the infrasound, which is such a horrible, torturous weapon. Torturous, it so is, and undefendable. And during all that time, including the little sightings that I'd had, like that one peeping from behind that tree, I'd seen a head retreating off the cliff. When my brother stopped round one night, he seen a lot. There was one in the river, and there used to be all funny lights on my hillside, like all orbs and stuff like that. And also, we seen a big figure like that, and we were shining the laser into his eyes, just pointing him out. A big figure like that on the hillside, a black one. So that was a Bigfoot. And so basically, all throughout this time, so that's 3 months of harassment, I never would have thought they had this supernatural aspect to them. You know what I mean? It was only when I moved that I got to see that. So anybody who thinks that Bigfoot is not a supernatural being, I can totally relate to you. I was harassed for 3 months, and I didn't think outside the box that there was anything other than that. But it was only when I moved, which we will get to, that I got to see the supernatural side of these beings. Yeah, definitely.
So, you decided to move, didn't you? And how far away did you move?
So I'll just mention one thing. Prior to moving, so I really hated these beings for what they were doing to me. I felt like they was being unnecessarily harsh on me. I never meant them no harm. You know, fair enough, I intruded in their space. I didn't show them respect. I tried sly game cameras, stuff like that. But I'm a good person, and I never meant them no harm. But in their eyes, they seen it very differently. And so then when they turned on me and started infrasounding my home and harassing me and driving me out of my mind, so to speak, basically that made me very angry. And I was like, F you, I'm fed up with this, you scumbags, get lost, get knotted. So I'm quite a fiery person. And so I vocalized a lot of this directly to them, saying, I'm not bothered about you, you scumbags, get lost, you know, spitting up floor and calling them all names, satanic scum, and saying stink, and just, I mean, every insult I could find, I hurled at them, saying, no, I'm not bothered, I'm moving soon. But I didn't actually tell them that, like, too much, only on like last couple of nights. But I boxed up all my home because I was like, I can't stop here anymore. They're wrecking my life. This is horrible. And I realised that I had to move. I kicked and screamed, thinking like, you know, no, I don't want to move. But I was like, do you know what? This is driving me out of my mind. These beings are not stopping here. They win. I'm out. I'm going to move. So I applied for somewhere else and got that in Chesterfield, about 12 miles away. So prior to moving, I gave it a lot of that, like, you scum, I hate you, get lost, come on, I fight you, I'm not bothered, you know what I mean? Because they were driving me sort of a bit crazy, to be fair. I'm not a crazy person, but
I mean, you were really depressed with this as well. I mean, it really pushed you to your threshold, hadn't it, this whole situation?
I'd say stressed, yeah. I've never really been a depression, but I'd say stressed because I had no answers for it, Daniela. It was like, what could I do? I couldn't go out there and fight them. I couldn't go out there and chase them off. I couldn't go out there and reason with them. I couldn't go out there and gift. I tried that and saying sorry. You know, as far as we're aware, they don't understand our words. I could do nothing. I was like praying, playing prayers. Do you know what I mean? Trying everything, seeking help online. If just out of interest, if anybody goes onto the Scott Carpenter Sasquatch Awareness Project website, you'll find me in the comments, and that is actually where I'm at one of my lowest points. You'll find me, Robert Topless, in the comments. And I'm there begging all these experienced Bigfoot people for help, just saying, please, these beings are harassing me. And the reason I'm actually begging them as well is because what we're just leading up to is I moved 12 miles away to Chesterfield, and never would I thought this possible, but they actually followed me to my new home and started harassing me there. And if you read the comments on the Sasquatch Awareness Project website, you'll see me in them comments under each heading, saying, please, these beings are harassing me. There's infrasound in my home. I can't stop them, and they follow me to my new home. Can anybody help me? Please email me on. I'm at my, I'm at the end of my tether with it, please. So, that's just an interesting little fact. I did get a little bit of help off Scott Carpenter. Just like I say, didn't have no answers for the infrasound, and I don't think there is an answer, which is an horrible weapon. So that's one thing. You don't want Bigfoot infrasound in your home. It's horrible.
No.
So I moved to a new address, basically, and moved 12 miles away to Chesterfield into a roof apartment. So this is where it gets interesting. So, of course, I thought that it was all over, job done. So I was leaving game cameras up and audio recorders all the time to try and record these beans and get these beans as well. So I have got loads of gigabytes of content on my Google Drive. Have I got the golden shot? No. But I've got loads. And so I was listening back to some of this last night's game cam and stuff, what I called it, where it catches some real activity on this cliff behind my old home anyway. And basically, I moved into a new roof apartment and I started hearing these frequencies again. And I was like, what's going on? And then I started hearing banging on the roof. Bang, 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 bang. What? I was in the roof, so there was nothing above me, of course. We're like, what the heck's going off here? What the heck's going off? And of course, my logical thinking mind was like, no, not possible. So bang, 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 bang. And this went on for about 3 or 4 nights, and nights, I was at work at that time. And basically, there was an aerial on the chimney, and that I'd keep getting banged as well. And I'd go outside and I'd like look up at the roof a bit after, and there'd be nothing visibly what could bang up there, just a bog standard roof. And then I'd be back in 2 nights later or something, and bang, bang, bang above my head, and then I noticed all this interference again, and I was like, what is going off? And of course, defied logic in my head. How can this be for something to be on my roof banging when it's still daylight hours? That makes no sense, does it? That makes no sense. So I was sort of saying in my head, no, not possible, no. And I must have said no 200 times, in my mind, like, no, defying to consider the possibility that they'd even follow me to my new home. That was like a nightmare, But then I started the realization sunk in when I was getting all this banging at night above me and stuff like that. I could hear them walking. I was laying down. I was scared. I was getting infrasounded again. I started getting all this evil interference, hearing these odd sounds in the atmosphere again, opening my window, looking into the trees opposite and seeing eyes, self-illuminating eyes looking back at me. And I was like, what is going off here? What sort of beast do I set up on myself here? This is far from normal. And I'd had enough of this in Matlock. I was at my tether, end of my tether in Matlock. I was saying to all my family and stuff, I'm so thankful that I managed to move. I couldn't have tolerated much more of what they were doing to me. And so I had to go online then. So like I mentioned earlier, a lot of this was sort of me suffering the effects of it, me being victim to it, then having to figure out what was going off, like with the infrasound, what I thought was Bigfoot voodoo, and I later learned was the claimed Bigfoot infrasound. And so then now I had to start learning about Bigfoot following people, Bigfoot tagging people, Bigfoot supernatural, Bigfoot, see through Bigfoot, what I mean, all stuff like this. And there was all sort of contents about this, where people are seeing figures, hearing figures moving through the trees towards them, but not seeing anything, or all the claimed stuff online. Yeah. And I was like, such a big shock to me. I was like, and I spoke to this guy called Larry, which I actually met Larry through, the Sasquatch Awareness Project. I mentioned that I put in the comments. Larry actually emailed me, bless him. Thank you very much, Larry. He didn't tell me the information I wanted to hear, though. I'll say that much. But okay. So I appealed to, because I went on Scott Carpenter's website, and I thought, if there's going to be people what know a lot about Bigfoot and can help me, it's going to be on there, because he's a renowned, knowledgeable man, isn't he? Scott Carpenter knows all about the supernatural aspect of them and the infrasound and all this sort of stuff. And it was actually Larry what reached out to me, and we ended up talking on the phone. And while we were talking on the phone, I had one on the roof harassing me and infrasounding me. And he was saying, you don't want to wind these things up, Rob. You don't want to be effing and blinding at it. And I was like, oh, well, I've been doing that no end. And he was like, you don't want to do that. And he told me about the supernatural side of them. Is like, these beings can be right near you and you'll not even know it. You'll not even know it. and telling me all stories, to me, stories about. He said that one person had one appear in front of him and then it just disappeared, and some real horrible stories for me to be like, effing hell, what have I released on myself here?
Mm.
And yeah,
I think
so
a lot of people, not a lot, I mean, some people I'm sure are thinking that this isn't your normal kind of Bigfoot behavior, as in the kind of harassment stuff. You don't hear that a lot. And then there's this supernatural element, which we do hear a lot of. But, I think some people will think, and I kind of think as well, it seems to be like possibly two different things.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's possible, but I will just say on that I think that perhaps behaviour breeds behaviour, and I treat them with disrespect, and I angered them and stuff, and it definitely was the Bigfoots what were coming for me, because
Yeah.
it was the same characters what I'd been recording, all that audio and stuff.
Mm.
That sighting what I'd had, of course, that didn't make no noise, but that, the fact that I'd actually seen a hair covered figure, and then the one retreating on my head, the head retreating on the cliff, sorry, and basically it was the same characters that I'd been recording. So could there have been some sort of darker thing mixed in with them? Could have been, of course, but all the time I'll say that I really do believe that I know my enemy, and it was Bigfoot. It was these cryptids.
Yeah. Okay.
Who else knows what he could have brought with it? But Bigfoot, because I'll tell you another thing. What I used to hear all the time, all chuntering and evil sounding, very evil noises. These beings never sounded pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So I do acknowledge, just to acknowledge to all your viewers out there, that people are having a pleasant interaction with these beings, and I do think that's possible. If you go into these woods and show them respect, and not take your cameras, and be respectful and do a nice appeal, then perhaps you will walk down a nice path with these beings. I don't deny that possibility is not there. In fact, I know people myself that have claimed to have had these these interactions, so that can certainly happen. But for whatever reason, me and them clashed, and they turned on me, and I sort of fired back at them, and it went down a real bad path where they was harassing me where I had enough. I wanted to be dead. After so much of it, they started harassing me at work as well. So I'll just talk a little bit more about the apartment that I moved into, the roof apartment. They started harassing me there, basically. So all these evil noises again, and basically I was getting infrasounded. And in this apartment now, I couldn't defend myself because I was living in a roof apartment. So my walls was actually angled like that, and my windows was. So I couldn't actually defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I was sleeping in my hallway, and all the time I'd get back from home. There was a teepee appeared in the woods opposite me. So that's another Bigfoot sign, isn't it? I see these self-illuminating eyes looking back at me all the time. I come shooting out of my apartment one time on my mountain bike, and I had like a scurrying back into the trees, like that was one of them beings. I shot down there on my bike one time, really angry, like banging my wheel up and down. Said, I'm fed up of this. Get lost. And I seen two sets of luminous eyes looking back at me, and I'd try gifting them. They'd take the food and then just carry on getting me. They were taking the food then at that point. And so, yeah, that's what was happening at the roof apartment. I'd get back from work, and about 10 minutes after, I'd start getting harassed. So, again, I know it defies logic, but I'm just telling you the truth of what my experience genuinely was. So, can I explain all that? No, I don't. But portals, I don't know how it was getting there so quick, but who knows? But it genuinely was.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a big one mainly and a little one, and there's a little one walking all over my roof like that, and the big one as well, and banging to intimidate me, chasing me from room to room. I'd have to try and sneak from room to room just to get out of this infrasound. Like I say, I had earplugs, what I'd put in my ears like that, push them in fully. It was summertime at this point, so I'd have my fans on trying to cool me down. So they sounded all funny because I was getting infrasounded. Then I'd have like ear protection on. And like when you close your ears off, it's like puts an intensity in your head anyway, then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just so horrific.
Did you ever, Jean, hi Jean, she's asking, did you ever have any mind speak?
Brilliant question. And I've tried that. I sincerely tried that. So the time that I tried that was actually in Matlock. I tried it numerous times, but I started in Matlock, which was the first home. So I spoke to Glenn, who was a friend of the channel, what we mentioned, and he said that I had to try and say sorry to these beings, and that was the solution. So basically, they came down to my apartment one night, the fake owls and stuff, and started harassing me. And I sat on my settee and I tried this mind speak, where I was speaking, but I was also trying to channel it in my mind as well, just saying, I'm so sorry, please, please, I mean you no harm, I'm your friend, no harm, please, if you just leave me, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. I didn't know, I liked you, you know, I really tried doing all this. And I felt like the being was out there, and it wasn't, because I had a balcony, the balcony below was empty as well, in the vicinity, and able to, like, I felt like it calmed him down and it calmed me down. That's what it felt like. And I was doing it for about 2 hours, sat on my settee, and then I was like saying sorry for 2 solid hours. Then I'd go to lay back down and it'd feel calmer. I'd go to lay back down nice and peacefully in my hallway, which was a horrible place to have to sleep anyway, but that was because I was most insulated. Then the harassment would start, and I'd get back up again, like scared, basically, like they're harassing me. Are they going to smash my window? One of them going to smash my window? Because that's what it felt like. They were, that's how intense the harassment sent. That I felt in fear for my life a little bit. You know, why was he being harassing me that intensely? So I'd sit back down on my settee just like this, and I'd start saying sorry again. I'm sorry. I never make you any harm. Please, please, friend, saying all these things, and I'd feel like it would calm again. And do you know what? It kept me up nearly all night doing this. And I laid back down again in the hallway, and they started playing up again, and I was feeling really uncomfortable. And all the time I'd be doing a recording and talking to my recorder. It was during the COVID. I lived alone. I'd be like, oh yes, I feel really scared now. Can hear owls out. I can hear fake owl outside now. Someone just climbed up balcony. You know, really scared and stuff. And then basically I got back up and I heard them going just as it were getting daylight, and I felt infrasounded to high heaven. So all they'd done is took advantage of me sitting there calmly trying to say sorry, and infrasounded me. Because that next morning I felt so skew whiff. I describe it as skew whiff is a good word. And I felt so angry. And I went out onto my balcony as they was going up, and I started mouthing off. I started saying, yes, cryptid scum, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I'm fed up with this. You evil, just get lost. Like losing my rag a little bit. And basically they started coming back down, and I remember sitting on my settee and saying, right, Dad, you don't think this is real? You wait, they'll be knocking on my windows in a minute. But I chickened it, if I'm honest. I chickened it out of fear. I turned all my lights on and opened all my blinds because I didn't feel safe, because they was coming back down for me. And my sister actually came up that very night, so the very night, and she came up with my other sister, and we had a bad experience then, because it come to the night time, and I was like laid down in the hallway. They was in the front room trying to get evidence of this happening to me, and I heard the fake owl coming straight towards me as soon as darkness dropped. I keep saying fake owl, but that is the cryptid, what used to do that owl call all the time. And I had my sisters there at that point, and I didn't feel safe like that. And I started losing my rag, saying, not losing me, getting violent with my sister, but just saying, I don't feel safe. You've got to go. You've got to go. And my sister ended up calling the, she ended up actually calling the police. I'll be honest with you. I said, call the police. I said, I don't feel like we're safe here. And she did call the police. And funny enough, when we went out, so I went out, and I was talking to the neighbours, and I just told them straight. I said, yeah, I'm getting harassed. And all sticks started dropping off the cliff face, and they said, oh, there's a person up there. That's what my neighbours actually said. So it turned out I was analysing the situation correctly, and my sisters maybe were in danger. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, get them gone. And so that, to hope that answers your question. But I did try that mind speak. So do I feel like I got heard? Yes. Do I feel like they spoke back to me? No, they weren't interested.
You never got anything back then in that sense.
No.
Someone was asking about audio. Now, Rob's got a lot of audio, and actually, we've just decided to. He started to send me it tonight, and we're going to go through it because there's hours and hours of it. We're going to come on again with the audio once we've gone through it all, because there's some interesting stuff. I managed to have a little listen before, and there is a lot of that yelling. And like you said, when it was the first lockdown, it was strict. You just couldn't go anywhere apart from to the shop or to work, and that was it.
Not just that. That time when I left that recorder, that was on a fog-filled night.
Right.
Down Stanwell, down by the river, which there's no people down there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was such a fog-filled night that you couldn't see 4 foot in front of your face that night. It was really... So, but yeah, I mean, that's great. I'll start sending you that audio, and we can certainly put together enough stuff. I think a lot of the stuff I will extract some good quality content out of my, not only audio, but video as well, and stuff like that, because I'd be really interested to show you that video of that last night game camera. Show you how much it's interfered with, and these potential faces what are on the cliff. Is by me sending them to you, and you communicating back with me explaining the circumstances around the audio, you know, showing you that cliff face and how it looks normally. You know what I mean?
And do that, because there's quite a lot of it, and like you said, there's no golden, money shot. There's no, the clearest thing. And we decided we weren't going to get into this tonight with photos and video because there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of story that goes with them, which is the main thing. Is that you've got that, but we're definitely going to come back again out when we can go through.
I think you made the right decision there, because there's certainly, I mean, it lasted for 7 months, so certainly enough content to fill it tonight by talking. But certainly we can work together definitely to produce some content to put on your screen of interest. Certainly.
Yeah, and because you've got, I mean, the whole timeline of what happened to you, and you tried to recall things along the way, not to show all these people, but you were trying to prove to your family at least that this, and to yourself that this was going on, and what was it, and like you say, you were dealing with it on your own for a lot of the time, and it pretty much sent you loopy, didn't it? I mean,
it sent me, to be honest, so what happened is I moved from Matlock, so they harassed me for 3 months at Matlock, and I'd had enough, but I could see a light at the end of the tunnel because I'd got the funds to move, and I'd put in place a move. I moved, and I was like, whoa, so glad that's over. I couldn't have took much more of that, and yet it had not stopped at all. And it got more intense because, of course, I didn't have, like, I was straight the roof, and that was it. They was on the roof doing this. So just to explain to people again, so what the claimed ability of these Bigfoot is with the infrasound, it's a low frequency what they can make. It's below the human hearing range, but yet you can still hear it at times when they dip into the audible hearing range. And certain animals can do it, can't they? Crocodiles can do it, giraffes can do it, tigers can do it, and 1 or 2 more mammals can do it. But it's like what they used to do to me would be like a, but even lower than that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so much lower than that it's very hard to pick up. It interfere with all my electronics, but that's what they used to do to me, basically, which is a horrible weapon. So I was saying about the roof apartment I moved into. I'd had enough when I moved into that, but they really put the pressure on there where it got really bad, and I didn't see no answers because I had this beings, because it was never one. It was always sometimes just one, but they usually leave a little one as well on lookout as well. So, but basically they come to me as like a team. So for people what don't think that these beings are in the UK, I mean, that's a logical flaw if you're thinking of the Bigfoot to be a physical hair and blood being, what is nothing else. But I swear to you, I've seen these beings once in that form, the physical, and about probably 8 more times in this like black shadow form. So I know that's going to flare up a red flag for people thinking like, oh, well, it was a demon harassing him. But no, I generally don't think it. Like, I've seen these beings as a black shadow form, like 8.5 foot tall, passing a sign. The one on the hillside, the big black one, that head retreating off the cliff face was a shadow head. It wasn't an actual physical formed head. What else have I seen? I've seen another physical one, a grey one, looked like a dog about the size of a donkey, but I couldn't see its face, but it was like a donkey bounding across the field towards me on Homebrook Valley Park. So that scared the living daylight out of me. But so I've seen these beings no end of times in this black, up at my garage site, but that's on video, so I didn't actually see that one. So I'll just talk about another experience. They started actually harassing me at work as well. So I was going to work and I was getting harassed at work, infrasounded at work, which sounds crazy. So it was always from the trees, but they only need a bit of tree, you know, these beings with the abilities, what they can do, this cloaking and stuff, like they can literally be nearby to you and you'd not be that much none the wiser. I had this ability to sense it. But I was up at my garage site in Matlock and I actually went a little walk through the trees and pushed over some sticks and stuff just in anger and stuff. And then basically I was on the phone one time and I got this really bad evil interference on the phone. And I was like, did you get that on your end? And it was like, no. I was like, all right, okay, no worries, bye. And then I was hovering about and I heard this like aeroplane frequency in the tree line. And then these being coming like through the woods. And also like a young one getting scolded. Sounded like a cat being strangled, which I'm presuming was a young one being scolded.
Right.
Because I've heard that on my audio, interestingly enough, and I'll point that out to you when I find that again. But so I was just hovering about near my van, and I actually got a like a big launch of sound, what physically hit my body. You know, I'm not a liar, people. That's what happened. Physical blast of sound, what hit my body and affected me and made me all scared and stuff like that. Got straight in my van. I drove home. Like, oh God, this is all so mad. This is just mad. That's what I used to be saying to myself all the time. What have I brought upon me? Saying, you know, I felt like a cursed man. Got home, 10 minutes after, they'd be harassing me at home. And that was in Chesterfield. And I was at that garage site a bit after, and I could hear a figure coming through the trees as well. And I'll send you this video because I've got this on video where I'm talking, saying, look, Kate, I'm started seeing a bit of cryptid activity in these woods here. And it could hear it coming through the trees. It picks up a little bit of an orb, and then it picks up this figure, which is actually only about 15 foot away from me. But I've heard it coming all the way through the trees towards me. And that's in a black shadow form. It's on the video, I'll show it you. And I had the sense to get in my van and leave. But yeah, that's another sighting I've had. So but I will just honestly, people. So if you think of Bigfoot as a normal, you know, not being disrespectful when I say, but you're wrong, you know, you're wrong. You are wrong. I've seen it. You know, I'm not a liar. So you can actually get a lot of like knowledge and insight from this interview. The fact that, you know, I'm a truth-telling person. I'm telling you the whole truth. And so that's going to give you a lot of insight into these beings because, let's face it, not everybody sort of gets harassed by these beings for 7 months. I feel like that's quite a unique position, especially for the UK, I'd say, you know. But then when I also think about it like this, though, you know, like who knows that I've been harassed? And fair enough, I did that other interview before. But let's say if I did not do that interview and not do this one, then probably a handful of people, you know, told a couple of workmates what I trusted most, my sister, my father, my brother, probably another 5 people. And yet I was harassed for all that time, and yet probably only a handful of people know about it. So it does make you wonder how many people might well be farmers and stuff like that, facing similar situations, but yet not able to talk about it. Who do you talk to it about? And then when they do, you know, you get ridiculed, and it's so, because that's another thing. I found that it was a case trying to explain to my family, like, oh, you know, they knew I'd been recording these beings. I told them about that. Then I told them about them turning on me and that they were affecting me funnily, and that they were carried on doing it. Something funny's going on. I'm getting all this interference. Listen to this. This isn't normal. This is my TV. And you know, they were like, well, it is hard. What's going on? But you're all right. You know, and then I've been recording all of the stuff. Then I'm recording these fake owl calls, trying to put my game cameras up, all this sort of stuff, trying to prove and stuff. But end of the day, I was asking my family to believe that I was getting harassed by Bigfoot. And of course, my sister, she'd no knowledge of cryptids. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a big ask in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, we just don't talk about it. I mean, it's maybe something on the telly now.
And what made it an even bigger ask was when I started claiming that they follow me to my next home. It was like, even I couldn't get my head around that. You know what I mean? Like, how on earth has this even happened? Yeah, I'd go online and I'd read about similar experiences where these beings had followed people from home to home. And I'd learn about these claimed supernatural abilities. So another thing I've been run upon in the invisible was when I was laying concrete up Starcombs. and there was infrasound in me, and that I'd had enough at this point. I'd been getting all infrasounded all through the night at home. I turned up to work, and I'd been getting infrasounded there the day before, getting the concrete ready, and I knew I was in for it that next day when I went, and I was, me and my workmate. But my workmate did like get me when he'd be gone to truck and stuff like that, and I had one run up on me in the invisible, like run up, big footsteps like that. Then it jumped in a little tree nearby, and I swear down, for that one to be doing that, obviously, see, you know what I mean? Like cloaked is the word. So I know it's like a out the box claim, but it's not just me claiming this. And I swear on my mother's life, and I'd never swear on my mother's life. I'm a decent man. I'd just never swear on my mother's life. You know what I mean? Like, I am telling you the truth when I say these beings have got this supernatural ability to them. And that explains a lot of why we're not, like, if Bigfoot was in the UK in his normal form, full stop, not able to change from that, not even able to do these funky abilities, it'd be seen by loads, wouldn't it? Somewhere. Do you know what I mean? They would be, wouldn't they? It'd be like a mass sighting, wouldn't they? But these beings have honestly got these funky tricks up the sleeve to be able to not be seen and to be able to go into this black shadow form. I've seen a black shadow crossing the road when I was out on my e-bike. This was before all the Bigfoot started. I actually thought it was a shadow man. And halfway across the road, it just disappeared. And I was like, whoa, the blooming neck with that. And I thought I'd just seen a shadow man. But after all, knowing all what I went through after the fact, you know, that was about 6 months before I'd even put my first recorder out. That will have been one of these cryptids because it was a really tall character. So the ones that I've seen have been about 8.5 foot tall, something like that.
Right. And some little ones, did you say, as well? So maybe.
Yeah, I've seen. Oh, that's another one I've seen. I've seen a little monkey figure running across. When I was out on my e-bike, I was going towards my second home, the roof apartment, and I was riding home. And this was in the daylight hours. Evening time, but still daylight hours. And a little monkey like ran across, but in this black shadow form, cryptid. I'm going to call it a cryptid. Ran across my e-bike about 30 foot in front of me, and all this sort of stuff had become that normal to me. I even think I've looked into a portal when I was living in Matlock. I used to stand on the balcony, and there used to be all these weird lights coming on the hillside, like orbs. You know, orbs is the word, isn't it? Where what's also tied in with the cryptids, and I'd see all these orbs like lighting up as it was during all this harassment period, and I can remember seeing one and zooming in on it on my phone. Why I didn't record this at the time, I've no idea. I was at a point in my mind where I was past trying to capture evidence. None of it mattered. I was sort of fighting for my mind. But it would look like a red swirling thing through my phone, like a red swirling orb, if you like. Who knows what it was? Yeah, that's just telling you what I've seen.
Well, lots of people report orbs, don't they? And see stuff like that when they're seeing Bigfoot.
Yeah, they do. And the two are definitely tied together. I mean, when I was in the roof apartment, I used to open the windows, and often I'd see self-illuminating eyes looking back at me, and orbs and mainly in Matlock on that hillside. So you mentioned about Matlock. Interestingly, yeah, you mentioned about Matlock, Daniela, and about crystals and stuff. But just where I was in Matlock, there's actually a little sleepy place called Bonsall, and that's actually a UFO hotspot. And you would just not think Bonsall to be a UFO hotspot. So little sleepy, ex-mining, hardly a village, just a gathering of houses, really. Well, it is a village, but do you know what I mean? It's not a substantial village. And yeah, that's an interesting fact that, right, you know, on my doorstep, Bonsall is known as a UFO hotspot.
Very interesting. We've got a question here. Anyone got questions? Stick them in caps for me, will you, please? Damien Chaos says, have you had any physical encounters like touches or being pushed or anything like that?
That's another brilliant question. And I'm thankful to say I've not. So this is going to be a little bit embarrassing what I am going to tell you now. And now this would even make no. In fact, I'm not going to tell that one because it could have been a dream. But when I was at my roof, so no. The answer to the question, sorry, is no. I've not. Okay. Apart from one time when I was living in my roof apartment, and they'd been harassing me for ages, and I was laid face down on my bed, and I felt like I had my bum cheeks pinched. That's embarrassing to have to tell you, but I'm just telling you what I felt, whether that had happened or whether that was just my fear in my mind putting that there. But that's the only thing what I felt, and I felt like I'd had my bum cheeks pinched, and that made me feel super uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? As you can imagine.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
We were talking about this before, actually, but Meredith is asking, did you ever use the name Jesus Christ on them or anything?
Yeah. No, again, another brilliant question. And so my mum is religious, so I do believe in God and Jesus, although I'll be straight that, you know, my lifestyle's not been too holy, shall we say, or whatever. But so brilliant question. And of course, one of the logical things in fighting off these beings was trying to do that. And it was actually Scott Carpenter what first advised me. He told me to pray in the four corners of my home, and even emailed me the prayer to say, which of course I did. So the answer to your question is yes, I truly did try this. I tried it really powerfully. I even tried it where I knew there was asking me outside. I was sat on my settee, saying, in Jesus' name, I cast you away right now. Go, you're evil. Be gone in Jesus' mighty name. I'd love to say it worked. Unfortunately, it didn't. It didn't. I'm not, you know, that's the truth. Didn't work for me. I'm not saying it doesn't for other people. It didn't work for me. So when I moved to my roof apartment, which was a second home, and I did two things. I made an apology, which I did into an MP3 and used to play through my stereo, saying, I recognise I intruded into your home, and for this I am truly sorry. I never meant you any harm. You know, please stop attacking me. I am a good person. Just an apology, basically. I am sorry. I beg you, please, to stop harassing me. And that didn't work. And also, I said a prayer, a powerful prayer, which I read out. And that was actually like quite a powerful prayer, saying, I cast you away in Jesus' name. You will not come across more mighty than the good and mighty name of Jesus. Be gone in Jesus' mighty name. I command you. You are not all powerful over the mighty name of Jesus. And I said this prayer and recorded this prayer. And I used to leave that playing as well. I used to leave it playing when I'd gone out as well sometimes, you know, just to fill the ambience there. But that didn't work, unfortunately. There was honestly no answers to all this for me. That was one of the nightmarish things because nothing was working. And I also tried tapping into YouTube, like rid evil prayer, you know, prayer to rid evil, 5 hours long, car lost somebody or something, and it'd be like, in the blood of Jesus, I cast you away, really putting passion into it. Again, all that used to do is wind these beings up. For me, that's what it honestly used to do. So I also tried mantras, which is like the Indian fake gods. I know that conflicts with the Jesus thing, but there you go. I was a desperate man, and I moved on to anything that I could have a hope of trying. And so I tried the mantras, which actually seemed to have more effect, but used to not deter them, but used to wind them up more. But probably because each one was 108 repetitions, 108 times, and I've just leave them playing. But it just used to be able to cut the air with the atmosphere with a knife. It used to anger them, if anything. So unfortunately, and of course, you know, especially during the second home, I said my own prayers because I was struggling to find any answer at all to stop these beings. There was no answer. On the internet, I found that there was very little support. You know, Scott reached out to me with a bit of advice. Didn't work. You know, not that I'm very grateful of any help, but it's the fact that nobody could help me. Nobody could help me. You know, Larry, who I spoke to, told me how powerful these beings were. Told me their abilities. Scared the living daylights out of me, but made me aware. So he told me also to gift in a certain place, which I did. But and that didn't work. So again, there was sort of no answers. So
and the thing is, the fear is the thing that's feeding all this, isn't it? Which is making it even worse. In your own, you know.
Yeah, I'd say that, but
circle.
I'd say that, but again, what could I do about it? It was a really scary experience, and like at times I'd be like really brave, and like I used to say, like, so I lived in this roof apartment, I'd be like, I'm not scared of you anymore. I'd be like, not bothered, because I weren't bothered at the time. I was just like, oh, same old, you're boring. Infrasound, boring. Same old, I can take it. And at the time, I'd learned to defend myself by putting these earplugs in, putting earmuffs on, with bag with insulator. That's honestly what I was doing. That's what I was doing, just to try and stop this thing from it driving me, affecting me so much. And I'd be like in window, like at night, like the like second bedroom window, saying like, "Come on, let's see your face. I'm not bothered. Show me your face. I'm not scared of you. Come on." But then, of course, an hour after, I'd be like, "Well, actually, I'm a bit scared," because it was. So that's another thing. I'll just reach out to your viewers now to say I would never wish what I went through on my worst enemy. Even somebody I really hated. I wouldn't wish them to go through what I went through. Because, I consider myself a strong person, but I'd had enough. I just had enough. It was just like it's constantly harassing me, and it was always infrasound. The weapon of choice was infrasound. They didn't need to run up and physically hurt me, like your viewer asked. They didn't need to do that because that would have caused what attention and wanted attention, wouldn't it, to him? Man killed or whatever, man gone missing, stuff like that. Yeah. I'm not saying that they didn't want to do that because it certainly felt like they did want to hurt me. But I used to go out and I say like, look, if you want me, get me, snap me neck. I'm not bothered anymore. Just get me. I don't care. Come on, you scumbags. Snap me neck. Have some dignity about you. But they never would. It was always this infrasounding weapon, which, if you think about it, that's kind of ideal for them because it's not detectable. It had a massive impact on me. It drove me out two homes, which that's quite a powerful weapon, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And of course, it cost me no end of money. Each home move costs money, doesn't it? I had to take a loan out for the second one to get out of that roof apartment because I'd used all my money. So, yeah.
So how did you get on top of this? Because you're not struggling now with it, are you? You're having no interaction or anything with them anymore, thankfully.
No, so it has all stopped for me now. So basically, what sort of was one of the end points of it all was I can remember when my sister started believing me, and I went down to my sister's, and I was talking about how I wanted to be dead. I was saying to her, look, okay, I'm up against this monster, and I ain't got no answers for it. I can't stop the thing. Do you know what I mean? It's so much more physically capable than me. It can outrun me. I can't chase it off. I can't reason with it. I can't bribe it. I can't even see it at times. I can't communicate with it. I've got like the ultimate being. It can track me location. It's harassing me at work. It's chasing me from home to home. Won't leave me alone. Honestly, what I was going through was such a nightmare of intensity. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, it was like an 8, a 9, or 8, 9, or 10. It was so intense. It was. If you imagine having like the local gang after you, that'd be quite bad. But you could reason with them, you could fight them, you could do, what I mean? You could come to some report to police, all these sort of things. There was no answers for what I was going through. And I can remember when my sister was coming on board and stuff like that, and she talked about me going to my brother's, and I can remember because I was having these anxiety attacks, and I've never had anxiety attacks. It was the effect of infrasound. And I went down to my sister's, and I was telling her, I weren't crying, but I was laid on the floor with like just this thing wrapped around my eyes, and like to try earplugs in, and like a pillow on my head. And I was talking to her, and I was saying, like, I've just had enough of this, Kay. I was like, if I want to kill myself, I will do, because I've had enough. It's not you going through it. I was like, you can't help me. There's no answers. And that's how I was talking at that time. I was like, it's a beast from hell what's on me. Do you know what I mean? I've had enough. I just want to be dead. I want to be dead. I'm going to overdose myself or something like that. That's what I was thinking. I don't take drugs, but I was going to like overdose myself on tablets or whatever to try and kill myself. And I can remember laying on a conservatory floor, and as I'm telling you all this, I'm like going anxiety, not crying, like anxiety.
Yeah.
Like really bad anxiety. And she could see that I were at breaking point. And she was like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to take you away to Wakefield, and you're going to stop at our Stevens. And basically, that's what I did. I went to Wakefield and stopped there. And these things stopped attacking me when I was in more than one person. When I was in 2s and 3s and stuff like that, they'd not do it then. That was the only time that'd give me a breather. They had this ability to track. They honestly did. I'm not lying. If they could track me the distance of 12 miles, they were able to track me. I don't know what funky tricks they've got up the sleeve, but they was able to sort of track me. And basically, I got whisked away to Wakefield, basically. and I had to go off work with stress. I was off for nearly 4 months with because I didn't want to go back because he was getting me at work. You know, so I'm sure that your readers are now trying sort of getting a bearing on just how sort of horrific this were. You know what I mean? It really was. I was off work for 4 months with stress and anxiety, and just getting myself back together after what I'd been through, and not wanting to go back to work because I didn't want to bother them and stuff. So I was off work all this time, really stressed and anxious and stuff. And but that's when it all stopped. When I started stopping at my brother's. So there was 3 people there then, and my sister had come up and stop, and that's when it stopped, basically.
Right. And that's, you know, I mean, have you come back to where you were living?
I still live in I live in Chesterfield. So I lived in Matlock in that first place. Then I moved to Chesterfield into a roof apartment.
Yeah.
I had to get out alone, so that also adds more credence to the story. You know, I took out I think it's £1,500 loan or something like that, maybe £2,000 loan, in order to move again. It was what I call my BIGFOOT loan, which I've paid off now. Right. But I had to get a loan just for these beings to move again. And so I'm now settled in the middle of an estate, living above a shop. So I'm happy. Yeah,
you're happy there. Yeah. It's just incredible, isn't it? What you've been through. I mean, we've probably not even gone through half of.
No, we really haven't, because as I say, it went on for 7 months, 3 months in Matlock and 4 months at the roof apartment, and they started harassing me in the daytime at work. So I got to see a lot, but I do feel like we've communicated a lot of the experience across the audience.
Definitely. And I think, you know, if we do a part 2, we'll have some audio, we'll have a bit of video, we'll go in a bit more detail about some of the things that happened. Anyone's got any questions, put them up in caps for us. We'll go another 10 minutes, I think, because there's a lot of detail, like I said, and you've only done 2 interviews, I think, haven't you?
Yeah, this is just my second one. So I chose to do this one on video, you know, on the video, so people could actually see me. The last interview I did got a lot of positive feedback. I don't you know, I totally recognise that I'm talking about some sort of out of the box stuff here. So, you know, anybody who's really struggling to believe my words, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. You know,
well, let me say first that I found you on that podcast.
Yeah.
You weren't putting yourself out to be interviewed. No. You're not particularly interested in putting yourself out there because of the amount of stuff that went on and everything. There was not really a platform either for you.
Yeah, I've left all the groups and stuff now that I've been really interested in.
There's not a lot of support, but like you say, you decided you were going to come on and just do audio, and then you said with the camera, you know, it's a brave thing to do, because it does sound, you know, crazy in parts.
Yeah, it does.
There's no 2 ways about it. I mean, we just don't experience the kind of stuff like this. I'm sure some people though have know what Rob's going through and can understand a little bit of it, if not a lot of it. Jeannie, sorry, Rob, go on.
I was actually surprised by the support in the last one that I did, the interview. That, you know, certain people in the comments put that they'd seen these shadow, you know, a shadow, you know, to me, there was sort of support and people could relate to what I said anyway. So
yeah, good. Jean Hudson says, so I would like to know how you were dealing with the anxiety and PTSD from this, and I would like to send you a hug and prayers. Thanks, Jean.
Thank you for your thoughts. That's very kind of you. So I really, really, really struggled with all this while it was going off, because I think that was one of the effects of this infrasound: panic, fear, definitely fear, Bigfoot and this infrasound. So so I think that was, and I really, really struggled with it all. But I found myself to be quite resilient, and sort of after it ended and stuff, sort of 10 days after, I sort of bounced back, and you know, I was just like, whoa, that's been so crazy, and I'm so thankful it's over. And I do feel like what didn't break me, it nearly broke me, but what didn't break me made me stronger, because I dealt with a whole lot. You know, me and my sister often laugh about it now and joke about it, because it's just such a crazy experience. And that's the one thing in my life what I know, will be quite unique to what other people can say about their life. So I can smile about it now and look back upon it and laugh and stuff. But yeah, thanks for your support and your hug. That's good.
Are you never kind of like looking over your shoulder?
Well, I find that I've not been back in any woods in Matlock. I'm not gonna. That's been sort of one of my conditions. So when I was saying all these apologies to them, I was like, look, I recognise I've intruded your home. I will not do it again. I've learned my lesson, please. And so I've not been back in any woods in Matlock for that reason, you know. No.
Yeah, you're not going to try and push it again or even
not in Matlock. No, and in general, I'm okay. I've left sort of the Bigfoot groups now, and so again, just to touch on that again, that I just do want to warn people because it was so easy for me to get into this mess. All I did was start going out there. I come across a story of a local Bigfoot sighting, and then I started going out there, curiosity, started leaving recorders, etc., photographing structures, going in their woods, trying a sly game camera. So what I'd done was not that extraordinary, was it really? And again, I will pull down that channel what encourages people to do these things, because I don't feel like that should be happening. I mean, I communicated with that British channel, should we say, and said, please think about what you're doing, because you actually, you know, I'm not blaming you 100%, but certainly it was one of your videos what I acted on, and you sort of talk about these things, encouraging people to go out and look for these in the local woods and report back signs and stuff like that. And yet, when it happened to me and went really bad, I got called a liar, a hoax. I got they shunned me, no time for me, wouldn't even listen to my evidence, with no interest in even giving me the time of day. A decision had been made that I couldn't have got evidence on the first occasion. That was the decision. Oh, that's impossible. You cannot go out there and get evidence on your first attempt. That's what I got told. And so that person just straight away concluded that. And I'm a man of integrity, and for me to get called a liar and a hoax, because, you know, I was like, no, please, trying to reason. And so when things went wrong as well, there was no support there, of course. Not that it's her responsibility, but there was no support, quite the opposite, and no answers. So there is another guy who did offer me a bit of support, GPE, Glenn. And,
Glenn.
Yeah, nice guy.
Nice
guy. Under a bad umbrella, but nice guy. But anyway, he offered me some support, saying I should apologise, write an apology and stuff like that, which I did. That is the apology, what I'm referring to. I wrote in my car, after Glenn's advice, I wrote it all, and I read it out, and then he told me to read it out regularly, which I did. I also left it playing, reading it out. Didn't make one bit of difference. So if that's the answers what they can give to when it goes wrong, then they shouldn't be letting people go into the woods and stuff like that without a warning, say, or even not just saying, just be careful, people. Don't go. Just, I mean, sometimes these beings don't want action, do they? Don't want. Well, they don't. You know, maybe people can have a pleasant interaction with them. I don't. You know, I'm not denying that. And so, you know, whether people want to try and do that, that's one thing. But I certainly don't encourage you. But I think if you go into their woods and treat them with respect and stay a short time and leave, you're more likely to get a positive thing going on. I went about it all wrong. But then there's no video out there, is there, saying this is the right? Well, perhaps there is, but, you know, certainly not from that
thing. Yeah. But you know, it's true. But really, the safety in numbers, isn't there? And if you're gonna dabble in something that really we know nothing about, you're probably wiser to go with someone, aren't you? But how are you to know? And what a shame you didn't really get any support after that, because who'd you go to in the UK? There's nowhere really.
I can also say that by the channel, what we were talking about, I've never been so offended by anybody. I'm 43 years old now. In all my life, never. You know, she really hurt my feelings and my honour. Do you know what I mean? Didn't have me honoured, like, just me. And I've never been so offended in all my life, which is quite a statement, isn't it? I'm 43 now.
Yeah,
you know?
Sorry,
It's not good. That's not a positive thing. And so, you know, that's not a positive thing at all, is it? That?
No, no. Well, I'm glad you found a place where I found you on, and you finally got your story out, and that you've come on here tonight to do it. It'd be great for you to come back again, and we can go into it a bit more. We've done an hour and a half tonight. I don't think that's too bad. We're both in the UK. Everyone else is like having it's sociable hours, and we're at 1:30 in the morning. Do you want to finish with anything?
No, I think that I will just thank you, and I'll just say that I do feel like we can chase this up with a really good follow episode, like you say. We can work through some of this audio because one thing I will say, Daniela, is that I've just been craving for somebody to just take an interest in this audio and some of my evidence. I've sort of got it all sat there, and I thought, I've actually got some really good evidence here. What certain people would like love to have. But so my father's listened to it and stuff like that, and I've got no end. But I really feel like we can do a good follow-up episode, certainly.
Yeah. So, well, you're going to send me some of the audio. I'm going to send it to a couple of people. If anybody wants to troll through some audio for Rob, if anyone's interested in doing that, I know some of you guys like doing that, and you can enhance stuff. You can, I mean, not enhance, but to hear better, put it through your programs. My email address there, Daniela@hiddenexistence.com. Get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with Rob. And also you want to connect with Rob. I know Damien K, you keep saying Rambo it, Rob.
I tried, mate. I tried.
Yeah, we can. So like I say, if anyone wants to have a go and listen to this audio and see what you can pick out yourself, there's plenty of hours of it. I'm trying to say that. So yeah, look, thanks again for coming on. We'll arrange another time, definitely.
Just grab 1 more minute then. As regards that audio, so if anybody does want that audio, that's no problem. Of course, if you send Daniela a message, she can send you links directly. But all I ask is that you download the audio from Google Drive, because Google Drive actually compresses all audio on playback. So if you just start playing my audio off Google Drive, you'll perhaps only get a third of the content, because it does highly compress it. I've talked to Google about this. So you'd have to actually download it and then listen to it. And so I've got probably about 7 or 8 recordings of full night recordings. So that's 4.5 hours and 4.5 hours actually on the recordings times 8. So that's a lot of hours.
It's a lot.
Each time I'd leave the recorder, and then not long after it'd be getting approached, it'd be getting handled. It'd be you'll hear all fake owl calls, you'll hear all footsteps, tree knocks, barking, low frequencies, or chuntering, dog barking, like I say, footsteps, handling it. It really is full of all activity like that. And there's actually hardly a dull moment in it. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that. So the audio is really worth listening to. And also, it's actually audio taken from next to a river, the majority of it. Some is up a lane slightly, and then some is at Cromford Canal. But up a river, one of the audios contains really odd snorting as well. Like, can't impersonate that, but all through it, there's really something coming up to it, recording, snorting really angrily and stuff. That was really odd audio as well. But so if anybody's got the patience to listen to this audio, you're more than welcome to it. And it's actually quite relaxing. So I used to enjoy listening to this audio. I'd put the earphones in my ears and lay in bed. And not long after I leave the recorder, so perhaps if you start 20 minutes in, something like that, forget the first 20 minutes, but just listen and just relax. And it'll not be that much longer after, you mark my words, till something's approaching recorder, handling it, making all and then all barking, tree knocks, loads of activity, all throughout. But of course, you have to have a bit of patience. But my brother listened to a couple of them, and he was like, "Whoa!" He was like, "This is actually amazing." Like it's Bigfoot handling your recorder and stuff like that. I was like, "I know it is, mate," but of course, not that many people have listened to it. But it's certainly there, and anybody's welcome to it. And I'd actually love any feedback on that. That's all I actually ever wanted. That's when I first started off. That when I saw that channel, I just some feedback on my audio. That's how it all started.
Yeah. Well, I'm
So
sure there'll be some people who would be interested in having a listen to it.
yeah,
Like I said, get in touch, Danielle at hiddenexistence.com. Once again, thanks, Rob, for coming on
yeah,
and
thank you.
sharing what you've shared. I mean, there's a heck of a lot, but that's what the rewind button's for. People can listen back to it and take it all in. And yeah, we're going to do part 2. So I look forward to that. Until tomorrow night, guys, I'll be on Bigfoot Odyssey for Sunday Encounters and then back on here for Anything Goes with Jason. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks for your questions. And yeah, have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.